Welcome to a special coach spotlight here at the Kokomo Post Sports. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, and many of you know that around here we love to get to know various coaches in the area, some at the high school level, college level, or even professional. And today we have a special treat to be able to sit down with Fonso White. He is a new boys basketball coach at Taylor High School. Fonso, welcome to Howard County.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you guys for having me on. I'm excited to be in Howard County.
Howard County is a special place. Kokomo is a special place. Both the county and the city are known for the rich history of basketball, and the state's known for basketball. So I can only imagine how excited you are to be in a new area to coach basketball.
I'm very excited. Just looking from it from afar, I tried to get in the Kokomo area when Coach Peckinpah got the Kokomo job. I had interviewed for the job and, thought I had a pretty good shot at it, but everything happens for a reason. And lo and behold, I took another job in South, and then now I'm able to come back to this area, and I'm excited to be back.
Let's go back to that period, because I did not know you interviewed for the Kokomo job back before John Peckinpah got it. What pulled you into that job specifically? Maybe it was just the basketball scene in Kokomo. I'm not sure, but what did you like about being able to potentially coach in Kokomo back then?
Well, I watched Coach Moore from afar when he came from the college ranks to take the Kokomo job, and I thought he did a really nice job with it. Coach Moore being Matt Moore, who's now the head coach at Warsaw. Watched him and learned a lot from him, and, I felt excited about it. And then when he left to go to Fishers, I was trying to get in on the job, and I just didn't get the time of day for it. But then, I saw when Coach Peckinpah was leaving Noblesville and people said that he was coming, obviously, with his wife there as the girls coach, again, just knowing the Kokomo area and knowing the history, Memorial Coliseum, and, just having an opportunity to play in that facility, would have been great to coach and have the opportunity to coach and play, pick up ball, whatever in there. But, I'm happy for Coach Peckinpah that he got the job. I mean, he done a great job bringing in a guy like Flory, and, the tradition is back and the history's there, and people are excited about Kokomo basketball. The guys were saying to me, I had an open session. The guys were asking me about, if we were going to play Kokomo. And I told them I would entertain it, win or lose. It'd be a fun thing to do to play Kokomo. And I think it'll bring a good rivalry back to the city, which is what the city is hungry for.
I like that. I would enjoy being able to watch that game and seeing those boys at Taylor play the boys at Kokomo. I think it'd be great, not just for the city, but just for both schools and both those teams, because there's great competition on both sides. Speaking of the Taylor side and the competition there, you were down in Southern Indiana. You will now be up here in Kokomo coaching for the first time in the city. What enticed you to even pursue the job at Taylor?
Well, just, I was my first start as a head coach was at Clinton Central, and I had an opportunity to play Taylor when Coach Malby was the coach. And then, Coach Malby left after my first year at Clinton Central. And then Coach Jake Light, who's now a principal at the elementary school over at Taylor. And, I felt good about it, and, every job that you take, you always look at facilities and you look at where different programs are going to go. And, you envision yourself at the time, sometimes after you play those schools, and you say, maybe, the chance for me to go there will be sometime in the future if the opportunity presents itself. And, just thinking, the success that Coach Malby had in a short period of time, and then, with Coach Light, and then, just watching Coach Wanell from afar, with him having the success over the past 3 to 4 years and getting the program to where it's at now, which was very exciting for a person like me coming in, to where I can come into a situation and not have to be so much worried about building the top right away.
Right.
Whereas my goal was always to try to build the bottom and filter up and get us where we need to be competitively at the bottom, so that way the program will sustain itself in the long haul, down the road. But, it's great to be at Taylor, Taylor Titans, great day to be alive. And, it's just one of those things that, Principal Gleason, the AD, Mr. Wiley, and Superintendent Deshawn, they all did a great job, going over the month of April, with the whole interview process and just getting me to Taylor.
Taylor's a special place, and on the football side of things, you mentioned Javion Harris before we even started the interview. Football just won their first sectional championship in school history. Javion was on that team. there are also numerous basketball players that are on the football team that carry that success onto the basketball court. That's a very special place and a very special time to be a part of, Taylor, because on the football team, they got a coach that's really trying to work with them and build with them and not try to go a different route that some other guys would go, but just say, hey, what do you need? I want to push you. I'm going to push you to be the best, not just player you can be, but also be the best human you can be. And it sounds like you're kind of in that same path where you guys can link up and align and work with the football coach and help the guys that are playing multiple sports to say, it's not just about basketball. It's more than just what happens on the basketball court. It's about life. And the people at Taylor align with that too. I'm looking forward to following you. What's your first thought about looking ahead to the first official practice about when you'll be able to lead these guys, Javion Harris, Dre McClatchy, and others? Can't forget Christian Hall. He would be upset if I did that. As you're leading these guys that are going to be playing football, that are trying to have success on the football field, also under a new basketball coach. I know it's a lot to say, but how are you looking forward to getting those guys on the court to work with them?
Well, first and foremost, and again, everything we do is about a relationship, and building relationships is one of my top values. And I look at the Taylor job when I saw that Rob Patchett, who is the football coach, has the job. Him and I worked together at Westfield, and I had coached his son Eli in basketball, and had a great time building a relationship with Rob. And, I watched Rob's career as he went to Northwestern and then he came here. And, it was one of those things that, I didn't know he was going to be on the interview committee until I walked in. And he looks at me and he's like, hey, Fonso. And I'm like, man, this is everything setting up perfect because, you got a great superintendent in Mr. Deshaun that had reached out to me twice. And then you got a Principal Gleason who he calls you almost every other day or every day if he can, excited and, ready to welcome you in the building. Then Mr. Wiley that checks up on you all the time. But then now I got a brother in Rob Patchett that's there, so we're going to work hand in hand, and I'm going to support him for football just like he'll support me in basketball. And, again, we got to share athletes, so we got to communicate with each other on a daily basis. And so I had an opportunity to pick out a classroom across the hallway from him or around the corner. And I told him I didn't want to cram up all this space, and I want the kids to be able to talk to him and without having to worry about coming across and talking to me. So I took the classroom down the hallway from him when school starts. So that way he can have his hall and I can have my hall, but my hall is directly across from the gym.
I love even better. One thing Rob Patchett did when he got to Taylor, I'm going to tie it into basketball too, was really put an emphasis on weight training. The team unfortunately lost the regional championship in football, but after that, in an interview with him and I did on the field, he talked about the importance of weight training in that game for the team that they just lost to, and said hopefully the people that are in the power at Taylor can look at this and say, hey, maybe this is a sign that we need to push weight training a little bit harder. Not his words for sure, word for word, but he was really emphasizing weight training, getting the guys in the weight room and getting better equipment, which the school has gotten to. How are you going to work with the weights with the guys on the basketball team?
Well, weights are important. And, coming from Floyd Central, we got a strength coach in Adam Zollman that does a great job with all our sports down there and getting the kids ready to compete and making sure they have enough strength for us to stay on the floor and, withstand, getting grungy on the floor and grinding things out. At Westfield, when Rob and I both were there, we had the luxury of Tavio Henson, which is probably one of the best strength coach guys in the state. And, I still reach out to Tavio just like Rob does. And, again, everything we do is, amongst coaches is a brotherhood.
Right.
And that's the way I try to teach the players is that, the we over me, honor one another and a brotherly love above yourself. And so, I have shooting shirts made for each of the guys. That's also my camp shirts because I want to build that camaraderie right away. So that way guys understand it's a brotherhood. If I'm going to the weight room and I'm bored, let me pull two guys with me to go push me to be a better person in the weight room so that way I can be tougher longer on the court like I should be, not just for myself, but for the team as a whole. And, I'm going to be sitting up at football stuff during the summer, just, because you got to watch it, make sure your guys don't get hurt when you share athletes like that. But I'm sure, Coach Patchett will be in the gym, to make sure guys, and again, that's just the thing that the luxury that I think I'll have here at Taylor is that, just being a sure athlete and share it with a guy that I know genuinely has my best interest at hand and wants me to be successful just like him.
Let's go back a little bit into your history as a coach. You mentioned Clinton Central. You're there for a couple of years. Then you went from there to Fort Wayne. You were there at Bishop Lewis for quite a few years, 2018 to 2019 season, I think until 21 to 22 in that year as well. What sticks out of your mind when you think about your time coaching at Bishop Lewis?
So, I mean, I'll take it back to Clinton Central.
Okay.
And, Clinton Central is a special place, too. And, the people, when they saw that I got the Taylor job here, I think everybody in Clinton County was like, oh, my. But Miss Keaton, we call her Patty. She's one of the media people that cover the sports over at Clinton County. She talked to me several times on the phone and messaged me, and we put some stuff together. And, she put out a thing, and, she reposted the article and stuff when they made the announcement over at Taylor. And, again, Clinton Central, there's some special people there, a guy named Denny Shoup. It's good that he welcomed me back to the area and told me if I need anything to reach out to him. He played for the Michigan Town Ganders, where they had the old Michigan Town gym, so it's good to be back up this way so I can go check out the nostalgia places like that and be able to talk to some of the veteran people and the people in the community like that. Then going to Lures, I went to Westfield for 2 years, was assistant coach for 1 year with Shane Sumter. And then, the Lures opportunity opened up. And, Kevin Godfrey was the AD at the time, and he had reached out to me. He said, I know this is a long shot. He goes, but we'd like for you to come up and interview. And so, I went online, applied so that we make it formally so I could interview and everything. So I did the background check through the diocese and all that good stuff. And, just going to Lures, looking from afar, James Blackman was the head coach for many years there. And, they fell off after Blackman left. And, just having the opportunity to go in there and work at Lures. And, Lures is a special place too. Well, every place so far has been special. And, I have no regrets for any job that I have taken because I go in and I just do the best I can because I'm more passionate about helping the individual kids out to be the best that they can be, not just for themselves, but for society as a whole and for us. So with Lures, we went in there the first year and, coming off a 1-21 season, it was almost the same situation at Clinton Central. You got to come in with energy. And I feel like I bring more energy than anybody every day, no matter what. And I tell the kids the same thing. I don't know what you went through before you left your house, but you come in this classroom or you come into practice as if you just ran into the best thing in your life and you bring it. No one needs to know your negativity stuff that you bring. Let's bring all the positive you have and give everything that you have to bring that positivity to the table so we can get a positive result.
I love that. You mentioned Clinton Central to Lures. I believe you spent a couple years down in southern Indiana there at Floyd Central. What did you learn from that experience?
So going back to the Lures again, then get to Floyd Central, is that, at Lures, I learned, the virtues. And, not everybody understands how virtues work, but, being at Bishop Lures, it taught me how to apply the virtues of life and the life lessons that come with it to every week to your practice. So, at Lures, we had a theme for every week of practice with the Virtual Equal Strength program. And, the guys had we had a virtue that we had to live out through that week. And, that's the same thing I try to apply moving to Floyd. But again, with the Lure situation, I think once we had that great summer with each other after the first season, we went 4-18, and we had the 5 main guys show up in the gym every day. That pushed us through that threshold that we were there to compete. And the guys bought in, similar to what we're going to run in at Taylor, is you're going to have a big 3 at Taylor, obviously like what we did at Lures. And, we ended up winning the conference for the first time in a long time at Lures, had the 3rd biggest turnout in the state that year. Wow, I was driving 4 hours in a car just to get there and, to and from. And, again, you don't put a value on coaching or teaching. It's kind of like that priceless experience where you walk into it, and if you're not passionate about it, you just can't do it. If you don't have the energy, you just can't do it. And, there's people that walk into their jobs and, they're so negative every day. I just don't think that, being in education, you can't be negative. Being in coaching, you can't be negative. You got to come in every day and you got to bring the best energy you can so that it can transfer over to your players to bring that same energy. And the lessons at Floyd, that I learned was that everybody's everybody, and you got to understand right place, right time, right frame of mind, do the right thing. And I felt like I was doing the right thing in building the program from the ground up because it was a rebuild. Coach Sturgeon did a great job of the talent that he had when he won there, and then he decided to go away and step away from coaching, and then one of his assistants had took over, and it was a 1-year stilt for him, and then I come along, and we win 2 more games, but then it just doesn't work out sometimes, and sometimes we got to realize that we're not the right fit for everybody, and we can't convince everybody to be positive. Some people just that they go through life, and that's what they gotta have.
Yeah,
They gotta
yeah.
have that negativity,
Yeah.
and they gotta have that conflict with people. And I'm just not one of those people. I'm just a guy that I love to coach basketball. I love to teach school. I love to hang out with my kids and enjoy watching my kids. And I show up to my kids' sporting event, and I just want to be dad.
Yeah.
I don't want to be coach. My son tries to lure me into baseball coaching all the time. And I said, I already did my time as a baseball coach. I don't want to be known as coach. I want to be known as dad. When I show up to my daughter's stuff, she tries to get me to teach her how to do certain things. I go, Zuri, I am dad. And, again, it's just, the lessons we learn is that, from Floyd again, is that you got to value your time. You got to value your time with your family and your kids. And, you got to value the experiences that you have with each and every individual. And, my goal is to always make every experience and every encounter the best that it's ever been for anybody and everybody that I come in contact with.
What kind of playing style? Let's get back to Taylor here really quickly.
Yes, sir.
What kind of playing style should Titans fans expect when the team takes the court in the wintertime?
Well, everybody says they want to play fast until it's time to play fast.
Right.
And just like Lures, I have the same setup, with the help of Coach Wanell, obviously, that had the success with the guys the past 3 to 4 years here now. And, I couldn't do what I'm about to do if it wasn't for Coach Wanell laying the foundation for me. And, when we attain greatness at Taylor, it will be because, the predecessor before me laid the foundation for me to come in and now execute my plan, which is similar to what I had at Lures my second year,
Okay.
where we will have the big 3 and 3 or 4 other role players on that team. And, Javion Harris is a big key part of it, 14.9 points a game. Keyshawn Galloway, 11.7. And then Dre at 12.9. And, Hall, he's going to be an integral part. And then, there's a couple other guys that are diamonds in the rough. And the Ben Wyckoff, I do believe. I'm still trying to learn names and everything as we go through workouts. But, I'm very excited, just like they're excited, because we got an opportunity to do something very special.
Very special. Keyshawn, I apologize. I forgot your name too. I know he mentioned Big 3. I think Big 4 at times. Big 3 is easy. But Keyshawn's one of those.
Yeah.
He's one of them athletes that any coach would want. Don't matter the level in high school, 1A, 4A, doesn't matter. You want a kid that's that athletic, who's also just that generally good kid. Keyshawn Galloway is going to be a fun guy for you to coach as well. In the summertime, I want to do a little hypothetical stuff here. Maybe hypothetical. I'm not sure. Charlie Hughes shootout is there at Carmel. I don't know if you've thought about it. I don't even know if Taylor has a history of even going there to play. But are you thinking about doing some summer run, scrimmage type things with the boys this summer?
Well, Jake Light, who was the coach, obviously, he had already pre-registered us for the Charlie Hughes. So
I like that.
Obviously, with me being on the IBCA board,
Yeah.
my guy, Tom Beach, reached out to me. He's like, hey, I'm going to send you the invoice for this. He goes, Jake took the liberty for you, not knowing who the next coach was going to be, but we're glad it's you. So we're going to send you the invoice. So, we got the invoice and we got that taken care of.
Okay.
So we'll play in the Charlie Hughes in the 4-game format where we'll play the 22nd or the 21st and 22nd. So we'll play 2 games Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, just to give the guys a little bit of time off, not have to worry about cramming so many games in a day. We'll hit the ground running come June 2nd. We'll have a couple of workouts outside their football schedule that they have. My hope is that we can try to get in the John Coppins PFW team camp up in Fort Wayne for one day, so I can get back in the Fort Wayne area and showcase the kids there, because I do believe we gonna have a couple kids that can play, for PFW. So I definitely want them to go there and see, what PFW has to offer and what Coach Coppin is all about. And then we're gonna play in a Tuesday night league
Okay.
at Elwood.
Okay.
We got invited over there to play in that, so we'll do that. And then, it's kind of like a sit and wait thing, because I don't want to burn them out.
Right.
Because, again, we got dual sport athletes, and, obviously you can't burn out super studs,
Right.
Or the elite players.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, you want them to have that downtime, because
Right.
kids will be kids. And you want them to have that downtime and be able to have their time to themselves and, do the things that kids do. But, again, we'll have a busy month of June. Just for this year, for the sake of the type of talent that we'll have. And, maybe if Purdue still has an opening, we might try to go over to Purdue, because
yeah.
obviously that's where Javion's looking to go play football, possibly, if the opportunity presents itself. But you always want to put kids in a stage to where if they have an opportunity to be that diamond in the rough, somebody will see them and see the potential in them and what they're capable of doing, so that way we'll do that. And then obviously, we got moratorium week the first week of July, and then we got to figure out what the other 5 days of moratorium that we got to take off. But, I'm the kind of coach that, similar to Clinton Central, when Coach Sturgis was the football coach at Clinton Central, we had the dual sport athletes, is that, once July hits, the guys that are dual sport athletes that play football need to go in football mode.
Right.
And, because there's nothing that they're going to do in July that's going to help us come October, November. So, that's the benefit of, having a guy that understands and a guy that's going to show up to football practices and kind of watch on the sideline and just make sure you're okay and, have those check-ins with you and build that relationship that we need to build to make everything successful for the season.
What's your philosophy when building a schedule?
I believe in, I feel like I told someone I think I schedule myself out of a job sometimes because, I usually end up with the worst record, but, the record doesn't entail the experience that you give the kids in having to level up and play at a higher level against teams that you don't ever see, and especially against teams that are more athletic than you or more fundamentally than you. But, I think at Taylor, the schedule is pretty much set, with the exception of we need 1 or 2 more games. And, again, like I told the guys, if we have an opportunity to play Kokomo, we'll play Kokomo. I don't believe in dodging anybody because you're 2A, 3A, 4A, or 1A. The goal is you want to play the best of the best so your kids can be the best of the best.
Last question here for you. Would you be open to working with the 5 varsity boys basketball coaches to format a Howard County basketball tournament?
Oh, I would love that. I would love to work with Coach Gish at Northwestern. I think it's Bennington at Western. And then Coach Lindsay, is it Lindsay at Eastern?
Yep.
Okay, I would love to work with those guys and for us to meet up sometime and just, sit down and have a conversation about it, and then maybe we got Tri-Central that's at the edge right there that we just throw them in, with us and have a 16 holiday thing that we do for ourselves and just start a tradition of our own, and just get our kids showcasing Howard County together and, all have that opportunity to build something special, for Howard County and the city of Kokomo.
That's Fonso White. He's the new boys basketball coach over there at Taylor High School. Really fun sitting down talking to him. I can't wait to watch the boys play under his leadership in the wintertime. This has been a special coach spotlight here at the Kokomo Post Sports. We'll see you next time.